Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. This is Fiona Matheson. So we're going to see Sean do the disease inspection from top to bottom this afternoon. Can I ask you all to keep your cameras turned off so that we preserve the bandwidth for Sean, and to also keep yourself muted so that we don't hear any interruptions. Sean is spotlighted, so hopefully you are seeing him on the screen now in his bee suit. So I'll just admit 2 more people. We've got 46 people now. Follow. Quit some more. I'll just have to keep it. They're coming thick and fast. We won't start just yet until we've got a few more in.
Okay, well, I mean, while we're waiting, John could maybe do a pan of my apiary.
Okay.
And maybe I can describe what I want. So this is my home apiary. Well, I've got 2 apiaries in this vicinity, and I'm running 9 colonies in this apiary. You can see that just about all of them are double brew boxed already. And it's not because there's all that many bees, it's because I'm a lazy beekeeper. Yesterday was the first time I did any inspections on any colonies because of the cold. And what I've been doing is I've just been having a quick look to see if I've got a lot of bees in the colony. And when I see I've got a lot of bees, I put a second brew box on, because I like to brew box. I like to run double brew box because I do all my queen rearing from here, and I have to build my colonies up so that I can raise the queen cells. And you'll also notice on the hives, I've got supers on all of them. And those that are keen to see will actually see that the supers are the wrong way around. So I keep my bees warm way, but I've got the supers cold way. The reason I do that is because and I'll show you how I'm going to do it later on. I'm feeding and getting them to clear the supers from overwintering. And because I'm getting them to clear those supers for me, I've put them wrong around to tell me there's something different going on in that colony. It's just a standard way. When you're doing something different on a hive, it's a standard way of doing it. It's just turn the box around the wrong way, and then you'll remember there's something funny going in there. So what we're going to do today is I've got a polystyrene hive. There are bees flying in and out of here. The thermometer says it's 14 degrees here, but there's a cold northerly wind, so really we shouldn't be doing any beekeeping. You can see a very few bees are flying just now, but these ones, they're a good colony. Hopefully they're going to be quite friendly as we go into them, and we're just going to go and do disease inspection. I don't know if anyone remembers, I did some videos last year about queen rearing, and my last video I had 3 nukes which I was going to overwinter. This is one of the nukes, so this is like a continuation from 2020. So we're going to use smoke, reasonable amount of smoke today, just to keep the bees under control. This colony was in a nuke box up until 2 weeks ago, and it was filling the nuke box. It was 6 frames of bees and 4 frames of brood. So what I did was, on a cold day, I've done a lot of cold beekeeping this year. On a cold day, I quickly moved them across into this box, and I have been feeding them ever since. So if you have a look in here, what I've got is a rapid feeder. When I lift this lid off the rapid feeder, you can feel the warmth in it. The colony is really keeping itself quite warm. And so what we're going to do is, when you go into a box, when you're taking a splitting off a box, what I like to do is just smoke the crack. So that tells the bees that we're going to do something. On here, I'm just going to move that like that. I take the feeder off. So we've got bees on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 frames. So that's as big as this is, as many frames as you can get. So you'll see that on a polystyrene hive, the front and the back wall are quite thick. So you basically lose the space for your spacer or your dummy board. The key thing to remember when you're doing a spot polystyrene hive is when you have your tool, you use one of these tools. When you're playing with the frames, use the back of the tool. Never use the sharp side. Never do this, because all you're going to do is going to break into and cut into your polystyrene. I bought these polystyrene hives last year just to experiment, because I've never used a polystyrene hive before, and so I use polystyrene nukes, but not polystyrene hives. So this is a good experiment, and these bees are looking okay. They're quite calm. This is what I'd expect bees to do. They're not flying up at me. I've not put any extra smoke on them. If you put your hand across the top, they're not flying up. So that's good. They're quite good bees, actually. So we'll just give them a bit more smoke, just to keep them down off the top bars. So when we're doing a disease inspection, what we're interested in is the frames that've got brood on. And if I'm looking at these frames here, you can see the outer ones. So what I did was, when I put these ones here, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these 6 frames here came out of the nuke box, and they are all drawn from last year. And what I've done is I put it into the center of the box, and I've put, I started off with 1 frame at the front and 2 frames at the back, and then I've put another frame at the front and another frame at the back. So I fill out, so the nest is growing in an even manner. So we're not interested in any frames that don't have brood on. So we'll just take the bees out. So this comb only went in yesterday, and you can see they're starting to draw it already. So just put it down the sides, front. So if the bees want to come back in, they can just climb back up again. So here we are at the second frame. We look into the second frame. There isn't any brood on here. I'll just rest this down, just move these out of the way. What we've got is lots of honey, lots of nectar in here. Or maybe not nectar, it could be my sugar syrup, but it's good, lots of stores. And on the other side, they're drawing it out. They haven't drawn all the way down to the bottom, but they're drawing it out, and there's no brood on there. So I'll just put that down here. I don't like shaking bees onto a box, because all you're going to do is disturb the nest. So I now move in, and I'm expecting to see some brood. So I rest this down. Those with keen eyes will see that there's eggs here. Have you got it? There's eggs on the side here, and or in the cell here, and there's the odd drone. So that's good. So a colony will not start to produce drones until it feels comfortable, but it's expanding, and it's expanding well. And then we have they're all just sitting around. What they're doing is they're clustering up here because they've got stores up here, because they're not sure what's going on, and they're getting themselves ready to run if they have to. So one thing I forgot to do before I started, just in case I come across the queen, we will just have some scissors ready and a pen ready. So, brood inspection. Hold the frame tightly on the sides. You want to hold the frame within the body, because if we're going to go inspect a colony for disease, we want all the bees off the frame. We've taken 2 frames out so it gives us lots of space. There's no skill. You don't have to do it in one hit. So what we're doing is, this one's only got eggs on it. It's got a lot of stores on the outside. and it's got pollen on it. I'm looking in, all the eggs are in the center of the cells. There's nothing looks bad about it. Stores around the outside, all freshly drawn comb, all the eggs look fine. I'm happy with that. You can see here a little roar. They're saying, right, this guy's not here for fun. I am having a quick look just for the queen before I do the shake, just in case. So we're always looking on the dark side for the queen first. And have a drone in there. Okay, bees off. Yeah, you don't get prizes for getting the bees off in one hit. What you're looking for is just to clear bees off the frames so that you can see what's going on. So if I rest this down, so what I'm now looking for is I've got larvae here. So I'm looking to see that the larvae are nice crystal white with with their segments showing, and they look healthy, and they're sitting comfortably in the bottom of the cell. And I'm also looking for the pattern. So as you can see down there, the queen is starting to, she started to lay in the middle here, and she moves out. So these are older, and as we move out, you'll either see eggs with very young larvae. More likely to come out this side as well. We've also got a queen cup here. I'm not too bothered about that because that will have been from when I first put the frames in as the colony is expanding. I treat queen cups to be outer markers. So if we just now get rid of some of these bees. I'm trying to be quite gentle so they can. So again, you can see we've got a lovely brood pattern. One of the things you look for when you're looking at the brood pattern is it to be even, just a wee bit rising, a bit dome on it, and you're looking for perforations. So here we have a hollow in the cell, but that's in the middle. So generally, when you have a hole in the middle of the cell, the capping, that means that's them just finishing off capping the cell. The perforations you're looking for is when a bees think there's something wrong inside the cell, the perforations, the holes are actually at the edges. So they aren't at the center, they're at the edges of the cell. So again, looks very, very healthy. It's fine. So we've got some older comb here. Just have a quick look around, see if we can see any queen. She's making a sense she'll have run. So they're covering the brood nest well. Got one. So we'll just have a look in here. Nothing. So what I'm going to do now is just shake off the bees. So here we've got good perforations. We've got they obviously were running out of space for putting their stores because we've got some of the stores in the empty cells. You will see that maybe there's a line here of the wire, but looking at this this brood, this sealed brood pattern, it looks perfectly fine. We've got the odd bit of pollen in here. These bees have been bringing in pollen big time over the last couple of 3 weeks. And we've got, again, healthy looking larvae in here, which has got all its segments, and it's in a very, very good brood pattern. You can see that the queen is laying well. This is the second or third time on this frame for the season, because out on the outer edges here, that's the previous lay. So all the ones in the middle have emerged, and she's come back onto this frame. She's laid in here, and laying out. So that will be her previous lay. Also, they've started to lay drone brood at the bottom. So when a colony gets to about 5 frames of brood, maybe 20,000 bees, they'll start to lay drone brood. And that's when they're comfortable as a colony and they're looking to expand. I'm looking for up here. We've got some nice clean the stores up here. So they're capping it well. They're okay. I have not done any maintenance or looking after these colonies this year. So that's why you'll see all this wax on the top. I've avoided going into the colonies unless I have to do a quick check that they're okay. At the warm period at the beginning of the month over Easter, I had a quick look at one of the colonies and I saw that I had a drone laying queen. So if we get time today, we'll go and have a look at the results of a uniting I did at 6 degrees temperature. I can't see any. So they were definitely running out of space in this colony because you look on here, we've got the got good brood pattern here, good cells, all looking nice, coloured. As the brood inside, the larvae inside gets older and more mature and becomes into pupa, then the cells get darker. So we can see that these are going to be emerging soon. But look, they've been filling in all their spaces with pollen and with nectar. So they're effectively running out of space. So when you're looking, if you're suspecting a frame, you want to look down. If you're looking at larvae, you look straight down into it. If you're looking for anything to do with the sealed brood disease, you hold the frame like this, and you put the sun, and it's we're not going to have any lucky with any sun if you're right-handed over your right shoulder. And what you're doing is you have to look in the bottom of all the cells, so the bottom V as you're looking, and what you're looking for is to see if there's any what looks like crystal. It looks like well, they call them scales, but they just look like they gleam a bit in the sun. Detritus sitting on the bottom of the cells, and you have to go across and you have to look in all the cells which are open. We've got a little worker just emerging here. So if you have a look at the work emerging here, it does leave a bit of a mess of the cell. So we've got a bit further down, just a wee bit further down, we've got some of it have already just emerged. And we've got here, this one here, the worker is just beginning to cut the cell to come out. So they're emerging. But again, it looks like they are kind of a little bit tight for space. When you're smoking, there's 2 types of smoking. One is if the bees are rising high, then you smoke all over. But if you just wanted to take the frame off, all you'd have to do is just a little bit of smoke down side, just to clear the lugs. Okay. So the bees are gradually moving. So as you shake the bees off, they're moving further down to the front frames. I don't want to spend too much time on each frame because basically I don't want to chill the brood. So I've got larvae in here. So I'm going to first of all look vertically down into the larvae. I'm looking for white, clear larvae with a segmentation. You can see all the segments. Quite happy. They're all sitting comfortably flat at the bottom of the cells. That's fine. Then I'm looking at the brood, the sealed brood. It's all fine. There's bit pot marks, but these could be where bees have emerged. but they filled them. The queen has not been able to come back and lay in them because they filled them with stores. There's still here. Let's get rid of some of these bees. So holding the frame tightly, pushing inwards, gives you a better hold rather than holding. If you hold it by the lugs and try and do it, the frame wobbles. You actually want to try and keep the frame vertical when you're doing the push. And again, they're filling every single cell. So the queen is running out of space to lay. Again, it's all looking good. I'm going to do one, maybe two more frames just to have a look to see if I can find this queen. Generally what happens is as you smoke, there she is. So if you want to pick up a queen or collect a queen, all you do is you hold the frame like this on your body. She's not marked. So what you do is you just take the queen and you play with her. Touch her right eye, she'll turn left. Touch her left eye, she'll turn right. And you want her to come up the vertical. So your frame is in the vertical. And then when she's in a clear space, you just grab her by the wings. And there you have a queen. Put the frame back into the... So you can either hold her by her thorax, like this, and mark her. I did test this. Marker blue. There's more blue going on my glove. I'm not going to stress her too much. And she's not clipped, so I'm just going to take one of the wings. There you go. And put her back onto that frame. And there she goes. I'm not going to do any more on that frame because I don't want to disturb them. The colony is looking actually very healthy. One last frame to look at. And again, you can see this is all, they've merged. She got in there and she was able to lay a few eggs down here, but they filled the cells with stores straight away. You can see on here, this is a line where the wire is on the foundation. Then she's not laying there, that's not a problem. But what's happening is that she's not finding space to lay. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. So again, looking inside the cells are looking good. These are getting darker, so these are older larvae inside, or pre-pupa coming out. They're looking fine. This one has got, I'm not seeing any disease or any problems. This one's got a very thin top. We might as well just have a look at it. Yep, thank you. So we'll just have a look inside. Looks okay. Doesn't look to be a problem. It's just that there was bad cappings on the cell. Again, we've got drone. It's been so cold they haven't been drawing out the wax on the outside here, and we've got drone cells all the way around the edges here. So this is quite a healthy colony. I just want to have a look at this one. That's got stores on it and it's got brood on it. So I've got brood on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in my book, when you've got brood on 8 frames, you've got to give them some space. So there's 2 theories you can do on this. I came prepared for both. So again, remember, it's the back side of the tool. I like to have my frames just off the edge of the brood box, because it gives them more space to draw the comb on the side, which is closer to the brood box. I'm just going to tidy this up because I'm going to have to put something on top. My instinct is always to go for double brood box on here, but today I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a queen excluder. Put a queen excluder on, and I'm just going to give them space to put their stores. So from last year, and I have drawn comb. So I have frames of drawn comb, and what I've done is I've treated them with acetic acid so that they're free of disease. And what I'm doing is when I'm putting on supers to start off at the beginning of the season, I always put drawn comb in. And what happens is they've got somewhere deliberate to put their stores straight away, and they don't have to work at it. And particularly when it's going to get cold again the next week or so. You'll see that I've got on here my color scheme for my frames. I'll show you on this one while the bees are down the bottom. So the year in which this frame was made is the color which is shown on the top bar. So this one was blue, so that was last year. This one is green, that was the year before. If I have, and that one was red. So frames can last quite a long time, as long as you look after them, have them cleaned out by the bees after you've done your extracting. You can use them for quite an age. But this one, you can see I've got a red dot here and a red dot on that side. And what that means is that this is unwired. So if it's got a single dot, it's a wired super frame. And if it's got 2 dots, it's unwired. Because when I sometimes mix and match, or you end up with a mixed and matched in a box. And when you've got capped comb, and you're going to do the extracting, you might not know what's going to be underneath on the comb. So, and it's to helps you to know if you've got wired or unwired. So what we're going to do is just put this frame on top of here. Because I've put a super on, and I know they've got a fair amount of stores downstairs, I'm going to have to get rid of the feeder, because I don't want them putting sugar syrup in my comb. So let's just get rid of the. As I was saying earlier, yesterday was the first time I've done a bee inspection, looking at all the comb within a hive. I did 7 out of the 9 here before it got too cold. You can see there's quite a lot of bees up here. Same way as getting bees off a frame. So I use, once a colony gets to a certain size, I use a rapid feeder. This is a rapid feeder. We're going to use a contact feeder shortly. We're going to start tidying up our detritus. So when they I like to cover up the holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover this up so it's got a bee space on it. And I'm going to let the bees sort themselves out up here. So these bees, you can see they're fanning to say, come on downstairs. And we're just going to leave those like that. Let's finish tidying this one up. A couple of bees on the top here. Let's put them down. Oops. There we go. Done. I'm going to leave this polystyrene overboard on, and I'll leave this little. So this is a bellow, and I like the bellow because, to a certain extent, I like the bellow, because it is compatible with the in fitting, so you can mix and match your equipment across both polystyrene and wooden cedar hives. They're going to sort themselves out. You can see they're fanning for the other bees which have not been out there, and they're looking after themselves. So before I move on to anything else, the next task, does anyone got any questions that I need to answer just now?
No, there aren't any questions in the chat room just at the moment, Sean.
Okay.
I did say to everyone to put their questions in there and we'd take them as we went along.
Okay.
But,
and how are we doing for time?
It's just gone 3:30.
Okay. So we've just seen a colony that's got bees on 11 frames. And this colony here, I had a quick look on the 1st of April, and it was no sealed brood, 3 or 4 frames, and I've been feeding it since that day, and just hoping that it will expand. And it's not expanded. I had a quick look yesterday. So what we're going to do on this one is we're going to assume that there's disease. So if you look at the down on the ground, at the front of the hive, you can see a load of dead bees. Now, that doesn't always mean that the colony's ill, but what it does mean is that there are lots of dead bees inside and they're throwing them out. So this colony was a really strong colony, and I had great hopes for this queen. The back end of last year, she was developed well, and they were across all the frames. They had loads of stores over winter. But if we look at them now, I did upset them a bit earlier on today, so while I was preparing for this. These ones, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3 frames of bees. You know, you've got bees on the outside here, but that's not a frame of bee. A frame of bees is when you've got bees on either side and either seam. And look at these ones. They're defensive. They're not happy. They're flying up. So what we've got to do is I'm going to treat them as if they were a weak diseased colony. So to do a weak diseased colony, when you want to do, the best thing to do is get them onto some fresh comb. But if it's a weak colony, a small colony, it is, they can't draw comb. They don't have the energy to draw comb, and they don't have the bees, because to draw comb, you need to raise the temperature to about 35 degrees, and you need to have enough young bees which have fed heavily on pollen. And so we don't have that in this case. So what we're going to first of all do is we're going to have a look and see if we can see. Well, I suspect I know why these bees are suffered over the winter. So we'll start at the front here. So there we are. This is it. Mold. This colony suffered from damp. You can see a moldy dead bee there. You've got green mold all over the place in here. This colony just, either the hive didn't keep the water out, or there was we did have a lot of rain over the winter, and it's basically the colony has suffered for it. So what I'm going to do for first thing is go through the colony and remove the frames I don't want. So you can see the bees have moved out here. They don't want to be on these dirty frames. Look, we've got dead bees on here. These are starving bees. This is a typical way of bees showing that they're starving. They've gone into these cells and they died in the cells with heads down, and it's damp. I don't see any evidence of nosema. So if there was nosema in here that was causing the colony to be weak, I would expect to see streaks. You can see a bit starvation. I think what happened was the colony became isolated. They got split. And we've got, so this is not a happy colony. And what we've got further down, we've got all the green again of the mold. So we don't want any of that in our so the bees that have been left, they've done a good job, because if you can look down at the bottom, you'd expect with a colony that's been decimated so much, you'd have a floor smothered in dead bees. But it's got a nature which is to keep things clean. So what we're going to do is we'll work our way through, and we're going to reduce this down to about 5 frames, I think. Here we've got some stores that are in here. This colony has had good amount of stores all year. It's just been too weak to take them. So once a colony gets to a certain size or shrinks to a certain size, it can get isolated from the stores that were in which are in the box, and it can die. Let's hope that this one is a good one. So we got one here. This is the first one that looks relatively reasonable, we've got some pollen and we've got some stores on the outside. So this looks okay. So I'm going to shove that one to the front. We've got some seal brood, so we know the queen is okay. So maybe we can build this colony up. So the idea is what we're going to do is going to try and get this colony onto fresh comb and get it off here. So we're just having a look out for the queen. We're seeing its healthy larvae in the middle. But look, they're agitated. They're running around. If you remember what the last colony was like, it was a much happier colony, much better state. This one, the bees are barely covering the brood. So we don't want to be exposing it to cold for too long. But we are getting some seal brood. So we are going to get some young bees coming through. I've not used any smoke, so they're flying up, but they're not in an aggressive manner. And there's no queen on there. I haven't seen the queen. I know there is a queen because she's laying, so that's fine. I need to find her though. I need to find her and isolate her. So we're off the brood. You're unlikely to ever find a queen on where there's no brood, but we'll just check. She's not on there. So find her again. You've got a bit of varroa. See the formed wing on here? There she is, actually. She was just sitting there. You can see the queen. I'm not going to play with her. I'm not going to mess around with her. What I'm going to do is just put the frame in the middle like this. So she's not going to go anywhere else apart from that frame. So what I've got here is a box with 1, 2, 4, 5 frames, which have been sterilized and with acetic acid, and they've got drawn comb in them. This one is a blue one, or was first used. There's maybe one cycle of brood on that one, so it's fine. So what I'm going to do is take this frame that's got the queen on it, check she still is on there. There she is. We can just see her in the middle, just here. And we put her into this frame here. We now close up the frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to take this dummy board out. I'm going to put one of my fat dummies in to keep the heat in so that they're all compressed. So the idea is that we're going to make a tunnel or a chimney of bees so that we attract these bees to move upstairs. I'm going to put a queen excluder in so the queen doesn't come back downstairs. And I'm going to put this one above. So there was 5 down there, wasn't there? So what I'm going to do is take that frame out. I'm going to make this one up. Now, this last frame I've got on here has got sealed stores on it. So what I like to do is when I'm getting the bees to clear a frame of stores, or I'm getting them to, or I want them to take the stores, I just rake with my unforking knife. Because bees are more likely to go onto exposed stores than they are to open up sealed stores. I then squeegee bottle, water squeegee bottle. I had some water squeegee bottles here. I'm sure I prepared some water squeegee bottles earlier on. I would spray this with water, but I've not brought them with me. They're still back there. We might come back and sort that out later. And then we close that up, and I get my another fat dummy. The bees are going to get in and out. We don't want them going in and out on dirty comb. So what we do is we put a new entrance halfway up.
Right, there's a couple of questions in the chat room,
Yeah.
Sean. Okay, so what if you don't have any drawn comb?
What I would do is I would first of all shift the colony into a polystyrene nuke and feed, because basically they can't draw the comb. So you've got to get them to heat. And if you give them more heat, then you can do it. But you should always try and keep some drawn comb from the previous season.
Okay.
It's because this won't work because the colony is not strong enough to draw the comb. You could see how many bees were in there. They had a reasonable amount of brood, but they just didn't have enough. They're not enough young bees to sort it out.
Yeah, before you put the crown board on, can you show us how do you make a fat dummy?
All right. A fat dummy is DN1s. So these are just DM1 standard national deep frames, but they don't have the Hoffman lugs on. So you can compare. There's no Hoffman lug. If you've only got Hoffman lugs, you just take your plane and you can plane down the lug, so it's flat like this. I buy in every year 75 mil with wood, and I just put a piece of 75 mil wood in, and I nail it in between all the way around.
Have you got insulating foam in the middle there?
No, I don't have. You can put insulating foam in the middle, but I haven't. This is just standard Corex. So rather than making the frame up with foundation, I just cut a piece of Corex the same size as a deep frame, and I just insert it. And then you'll know that when you look at a frame, the bottom part of the frame is always an instep. So I just use some duct tape just to seal off so the bees can't go up inside. That's enough to give a heat barrier, because you've got an outer wall and an inner wall, and that works well. Anyone who's seen me do any queen rearing and making up nukes, well, I like my fat dummies.
Yeah. Okay, so another question was, did you, when you were looking downstairs for the queen, did you see that there were eggs in there? I think we said there were larvae.
Yes, there were eggs. There were eggs in there. Okay. Yeah. When you bring the queen up, in an ideal world, there you are. There's some eggs. Okay.
Right.
What you want is to have larvae. You want to have some larvae on this frame. So we've got some bald brood here. That's bald brood on here. So it's a colony which is not happy, but you've got larvae. If you don't have larvae on the frame, then the colony is likely to abandon the queen. If you only have eggs and a queen on a frame up here, and most of the brood is down the bottom, the colony can abandon it. So what you want to do is always have larvae, so that the nurse bees from downstairs come up to look after the larvae on the top.
Yeah. So in relation to that, so then how do you find eggs on dark comb? I think people have trouble seeing the eggs against it because there's not much light in there.
All right, okay. Get good glasses. Sorry, that's a facetious answer. Have a look here. So let's see. Sorry, this side might be better. It doesn't really matter. It's actually easier on dark comb, because you always start in the middle where it's the oldest larvae, and you always work your way out out along, and then you'll see some young larvae, and you just carry on going, and there must be, and you can see you on that camera you can see the eggs. Can you see the eggs down the bottom? There's one down there. It's harder. The bit that's hard about seeing eggs is when eggs are freshly laid. So when eggs are freshly laid, they are in the vertical mode, and then all you're seeing is the top. So you don't want to be going all the way out to look for eggs. It's where you see the youngest larvae and a bit before, because the eggs about 3 days fall over flat, and you're seeing the rice grain then, and in a horizontal mode. And that's the way. So don't always look to the outside. Start in the middle and work out. And quite often it's easier to see on the dark frame because it's contrasting.
Yeah, and people in the chat room are saying shine an LED torch on the comb, which makes it fluoresce. Apparently.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good thing to do. Yeah. So this colony is weak colony. So you don't want to wait. If you have the feeder, which is the rapid feeder, the bees have to come up and go over to get to the feed, and that's just exposing them to cold, and they're very unlikely to do that. So when you've got doing this, you want to have a contact feeder. So a contact feeder is where you've got the mesh and you've got the honey stores above, and the bees can go straight through and they can take it. And you want to put it as close to the brood as possible. So I'm just going to fill this.
So here's a non-sequitur question, but you did mention that you'd seen some deformed wing virus.
Yeah.
So what evidence do you need to confirm deformed wing virus, and how do you treat?
Okay. So deformed wing virus is a sign. Well, let me just finish doing
Sorry,
that. So
we're
basically, put the top on here because I don't want to expose these too long, and just put the feeder on. I don't want to expose them to that. That's fine. Okay. Deformed wing virus is very simple to see because the wings are deformed. But deformed wing virus doesn't mean they've got deformed. Deformed wings does not mean they've got deformed wing virus. So, for instance, a bee can go into a cell, and for instance, if there's wax moth around, it can cause an issue with the wings coming out when it turns into a pupa, before it emerges. So the deformed wing virus that we're worried about is deformed wing virus, which comes from a prevalence of Varroa in the hive. So what you do is you test for Varroa, and if you've got a high Varroa count, then you treat for the Varroa. So the Varroa is a vector for the deformed wing virus because the Varroa is piercing the cuticle of the bee, and therefore it can and in doing so comes in contact with the hemolymph, which then can pass on the virus from bee to bee. So what we don't want is don't want Varroa, and Varroa is the vector for deformed wing. We can't treat deformed wing per se; it's just the vector that causes it. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Is there a follow-up question to that?
No, not yet. Maybe in a minute. So whoever, I can't remember who asked that question, but if you haven't quite understood what Sean said, put something in the chat and we'll go through it again.
So I buy at the beginning of the season a load of 75mm wood, and I put it in the inside of my roof. So I only use 6-inch roofs, or try and use it 6-inch roofs. I've still got some old 4-inch ones which I haven't got rid of yet, but I put this 75mm in, and the main reason I put this in is that when I've got a feeder, I don't need an eek.
Okay. So what method of Varroa counting going back to the Varroa, Sean, what method of Varroa counting do you use?
Basically you put a Varroa board in. I put a Varroa board in on the bottom of the hive. I put it in for 7 days, bring it out. I scrape all the detritus into a jar with methylated spirit in it. I count the Varroa which have floated to the top of the methylated spirits, and then I go into B-base, check that number to see if it's a high count or not. And if it's a high count, then you can treat in the method that you want to treat. And some people might do a shook swarm, maybe treat for Varroa. Some people might do Apiguard. All depends on the season. My preferred treatment, when I can, is to use Max because it's over and done within a week. And as long as the colony is strong, it comes out a better colony for it. Okay. It gets it going through. But you should be doing, at this time of year, you shouldn't be getting Varroa drops. That deformed wing could have been from Varroa, or it could have been, and I suspect not, because I treated them with the oxalic acid before Christmas, and they were a strong colony before Christmas. So I suspect there isn't much Varroa in there, and it could well have been something to do with the fact the colony's weak, and maybe the bee became exposed to the cold while it was still in the cell. Okay. So we've got one last job to do.
So before we go to that, can you clarify this thing that's come up recently about having to report high Varroa count as a reportable disease? I think that's just a piece of bureaucracy. I don't think anyone needs to worry about that particularly.
Yeah. So what's happened is that because we've become what you call a third country. It might be part of our punishment for Brexit or not. Because we're a third country, we have to, if we sell colonies as a country into EU, colonies of bees, we have to have a health certificate, and they have to know whether Varroa is present or not. So what they're asking us to do is go onto BeeBase. So everyone should have their colonies registered on BeeBase, and there's going to be a tick box next to your colonies or your apiary to say whether you got Varroa or not. And if you're in this part of the country, I think you've got to say you got Varroa. It's not going to affect us.
Helen Palmer has clarified that she says if you're on BeeBase, it's already been updated for you. So there's nothing for anyone to do.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and here's another random question. What is hanging from the tree over your left shoulder? Some wizardry to keep wasps away. I don't know what that is.
Well, that's just a dead branch of the yew tree.
It's just a dead bit of tree. Okay.
All right. Okay. So the last task we've got to do is a duct tape task. So we've got the colony in the old colonies in the bottom brew box, and they've been using this bottom entrance. We've put a new entrance up here, which is above the queen excluder. And what we don't want is bees coming in and out of this colony on the old brew box, because if there's any disease or anything on those frames, any disease at all, they're going to pick it up and they're going to take it up the top. So we don't want that. We want them to have minimum contact with the old frames. So we just put some foam in here. The reason I'm putting the foam in is because I'm going to duct tape it, and I don't want the bees sticking to the duct tape. Move that out of the way a bit. Natural gloves are not the best thing to use when you're duct taping. There you go. One sealed entrance. The bees that are out just now will come back and they will discover that entrance up here, and they'll go. And anyone who's in Chalfonts will recognize this as a Graham Eek. I think 4 or 5, was it 6, maybe 6 years ago, we did at the honey show, the county honey show. He showed us all how to make them. So I'm just going to make sure I've got any of my bees which are lying around. I'm just going to these. One of the problems is that because it's cold, the bees, their muscles stop working. So we don't want them to. You don't want them to being exposed to the cold for too long. So I'm just going to help them along to get home. Just pick them up. In we go. Oh, she's worked out what the home is already. There you go. Here you go. They're not bothered. It's just it's like practicing picking up queens. Pick up a worker by its wings. It won't sting you. There you go. What time have we got, Helen? I'm Fiona. Fiona, do you have time?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. It's just on 4 o'clock now.
Okay, does anyone want to see a drone lane, the remnants of a drone lane queen?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think we do.
Okay. Very quickly. The bees are actually quite well behaved for the cold. So
we've still got a few more questions come in.
Carry on asking them.
Okay, so somebody says, my bees were extremely defensive when I opened the hive for the first time. The colony was stroppy and aggressive last season. Should I think about requeening, or will they settle down as it warms up?
I would think about requeening, but I would give them a chance to be and to get used. They don't like being opened up at the cold, and you have to be. I'm not saying you're not skilled, but you have to be quite skilled at being able to handle bees when it's not good conditions. And no one wants stroppy bees. No, I've got a colony in here where there's an odd bee that comes out and chases you around or follows you around, and they're not going to. They're going to be good. Once I've worked out the colony, they're going to requeen them.
Yeah.
So I'm quickly going to find. Let me go get another roof. So when you've got a double brood box, just like this, you put the standard roof. Well, I'm right-handed. Put the standard roof on the right-hand side. Take what other boxes you've got above the brood box and put them on that side. I'll come back to this, but just remember this arrangement. I've got two boards on the top here, and I've only got small bee spaces above. You don't even worry about looking for the queen. You take that off and just put it to the side on the other side. These bees are what I call feisty, but they're not that bad. I've just given them a shock. So I'm going to this colony here on the beginning of April. What I did was, it was that warm day. I just had a quick look in just to see we were okay, and I noticed that all I did was go into the brood what looked like brood frames, and this is a bit dirty. This is a red one, so 3 years old. It was up for change anyway this year, and I've got lots of nice pollen in there. No brood or anything like that. Worryingly, they had a fresh queen cup with a larvae in it. So that was the first thing I noticed, which was concerning. So what that means is they're trying to create a new queen. And then the next frame, you pull it, it doesn't look too bad. There was some brood on it, but then you turn it over, and this is, let's just get rid of these bees. This is a classic drone laying queen. So in here, some of them have emerged, so this is all that's left of it, is the normal brood pattern shape. So the queen's laying as if she's normal, but what's happening is you've got drone brood appearing in worker cells. So that is drone laying queen. That's a drone laying queen. This one here, you can see the perforation. Remember I was talking about perforations before? They're going on the side. So have a look what's going on underneath. But so I didn't want. It's okay. Well, they have started to. The queen has come down here. She is laying down here because there's some brood. I'll explain that in a second. So what I didn't want was the bees, which are the winter bees, having to go another month without a queen, because then you're losing a colony of bees. So what I did was I had another one of my overwintered nukes. Again, got a lot of pollen on here. So the bees were bringing in pollen. They were treating everything right, but they were just realizing the queen was a drone laying queen. So we had to do some action. So from another apiary I've got, I brought a small nuke and I did a paper unite. And the paper unite was at because if you remember, the week after, well, the back end of March, it was absolutely freezing. So I did the paper unite, and you normally go back and you have a look, and I look for paper underneath the open mesh floor, and there was no paper. So I had a quick look in. I'd perforated the newspaper between the two brood boxes, just ripped out the paper and left them to sort themselves out. I can feel the heat pouring out of this hive. So I've got bees there on 7 frames, lots of nice stores in there. I'm not really too bothered about the wax on the top. I can come back and tidy it up. I've got eggs out here, so I had eggs on the frame below. So when you're on a cold day and you're inspecting your colony, you don't really want to go through every frame. So I know I've got brood on this frame, so I just go to the other end of the brood nest. And I've got eggs on that end. Oh, and I've got a queen. So for those of you who weren't watching earlier, if you're going to have a queen, you hold the frame onto your chest. Oh, my cuff's come undone and the bee's stinging me on my wrist, but never mind. There you go, and you get the queen. You just pick her up. I'm just going to sort out my sting. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames of brood up here, and some brood down the bottom, and I've got a colony that's saved. There we go. Just pull them out. And I think that's all the demonstration I'm going to do, except I'm going to describe to you what I've done on this frame. I have to take that bottom brood box out, and I have to reduce them back onto one brood box, because even if it's only for a couple of weeks. Because what happens is that bees like to go in a chimney. So if you put new brood box on too early, on one which is below, they will only grow the colony up in a chimney like that, and they won't go outwards. So it's a compromise as to timing, as to what you've got to do. So you have to let the colony in the bottom box go out far before you put the next box on. So if you put it on too early, you'll end up with all comb in the wrong place. So what you've got to do is you've got to just let them expand and then move on from there. So what I do is I put this crown board on with two holes. So just enough space for a few bees to go on. This has got my old feeding on it. So if you look on here, the bees are coming up through the hole, and because it's a small gap and a crown board between this box and the brood box below, it's treating this as not stores from the hive, so they're robbing it. So they come up and rob, and they clean all the frames. So they're cleaning the frames here, which I've uncapped and put water in. And it's quite interesting, because when I put the water on the frames, all the number of bees on my water sources around the garden have declined quite rapidly. So what they're doing is they're treating these stores as not part of their hive, and they're using them to either normally under draw comb, or just to build up stores downstairs in the brood box. And it's a brilliant way of clearing frames. So you can see here, this frame here, it was overwintered frame. They'd uncapped it. They hadn't taken all the stores out. The liquid you can see in the frames is my water. Water liquefies the honey inside, and then the bees then just treat it as just another forage. And they can then, and this is a really, really good way of getting bees to draw fresh foundation. So if in a normal circumstances, that was my normal brood box, put fresh foundation on. In fact, that's what the end hive is doing. Put the fresh foundation on, and this on top. It robs it, draws out the comb, and Bob's your uncle. You've got a whole new fresh set of comb.
So you don't have to feed them then, they can just rob the cup of the old hive.
They just rob it, yes. Because feed can be quite expensive, can't it, at the end of it?
Yeah. So did you, before you united those, did you find the drone-laying queen and destroy her?
Yes, she's in the fridge waiting for the microscopy group to dissect her.
Right. Another random question. Where do you get your gloves from? They seem to have a longer cuff.
Yeah, Hygiene Depot, sorry.
Hygiene Depot.
Just Google. I buy them now. Which ones are these? There's two. I've got two types just now. Let's find the box. There you go.
Okay.
And it's they're called long cuff. So I buy a large stock, and this one's got a number 1113 on it. I also buy for these ones. These are the pro ones. Then there's another one which are purple, which is slightly thinner, and then there's another one which is a dairy for dairy farmers, which is quite thick. So I have all three, and these ones I find the best. They give best resistance to stings, whereas the purple ones, which are again long cuff, are you can feel the sting come through. That's it. They're the ones, and I don't know if you can tell the difference in thickness of them. That they're slightly thinner, but you can still pick up a queen with these on, and that's the beauty of them. That's why I like them.
So where do you get your queens from? There's a question here.
Well, I breed my own. So I breed my own. So all the queens in this apiary are blue queens from last year, bar one. So in this one apiary, I've got 8 blue queens, which are my queens from last year. And the colony, I've got a debate. So if we look down at the colony, well, these first 4 colonies you see here, which have got double brew boxes on, they were on my shortlist for queen rearing this year. Obviously, colony number 3 took itself out by carrying a drone layer. So between the 3, the far 2 and this one in the middle, they're all from the same mother, and they're 6th generation from the same mother way back, which was a lassie queen, a queen which was bred in Sussex University and open reared. I bought a couple of them, and that was where my line of queens started. And I will most probably go for the middle colony for the queen. She's performing quite well and quite friendly. And then I'm going to use the far 2 for doing my cell raising, for raising the queen cells. And I'll raise maybe 50 queens this year. That's not a lot in some scales.
Okay.
And if you have a new queen, you don't have to worry about them going and swarming first thing in the new season.
Okay, so what is that stuff on the floor of the apiary?
Oh, this is playground. This is well, you know, when you go to school, the playgrounds in parks, it's the same chippings. It's wood chippings. Yeah. So what we did was we put this has all been redone. So the last one lasted us about 8 years. We've just put down 2 more layers of barrier underneath all of this. Reset all over winter. So we all do lockdown jobs. One of our lockdown jobs was to make these all level again, and then fill it up with this. There's about 2 tons of, maybe 3 tons of bark chippings in here.
So there's a couple of questions from earlier that I missed. So when you were using your Abello hive, your polystyrene hive, do you have problems with ventilation with that hive?
No, because it's got an open mesh floor.
Okay.
So it's got an open mesh floor. I do have a problem with it, and I'll show you on this one. I don't know if it's me or if it's I live in a wet world or what. I get water in here. And I don't get water in there on any of my wooden hives. Or maybe I do and it just seeps out because it's wood. I don't know. But I get water. So there's ingress here of water. Now, what I don't do is with the polystyrene hives, is what you're meant to do is you've got a strap mark here and you put a ratchet strap round and pull it tight. And I don't like doing that. I just put my stone on the top, and maybe it's not making a good enough join on. I like the bellows because they've got this rigid plastic on the side. So you're not going to cause any damage with your tool along this top edge. But I don't like it for the water ingress. And it's obviously worked really well for that colony. And this one's not too far behind. They were both winter nukes. They went in with maybe 2 frames of brood in the nuke boxes, the polystyrene nuke boxes, put them in here, and that one there is expanded. The warmth, it keeps them warm. And earlier on, before we started, it was colder than this. The only 2 beehives the bees were flying out of were the 2 polystyrene hives. So they do work.
Yeah, they're popular, I think. So here's another different question. During our last inspection, one of our hives is absolutely full to bursting with bees. It is a brood and a half, and some of the frames in the super were full of capped brood, which all looked like drone brood. What would be the best way to split them?
So in the bottom super, yeah, because what they do is they like to make drone brood in the at the bottom of the outer edges of the brood. That's the problem with the brood and a half. Because if you have 2 boxes which are the same, which are 2 full-size nukes, you can split them and just share the frames between them. I would do the split on the brood box, keeping the brood and a half. So I take out frames out of the brood box and put that in the new colony, along with well, you're going to have a second queen, and leave the other one as a brood and a half. And then if you wanted to, you could then isolate. So say we've got a brood and a half. So the super is down the bottom. You've got the brood box. You isolate the queen in here, and you've got all the drones down here, and put a queen excluder between the 2. And once all the brood has emerged from the bottom box, then you can then take that box away and run and do whatever you want to do with it. If you want to stay with brood and a half, then that's fine. Just leave them like that. And what happens is, because when all the drones emerge, then the colony will say, well, we don't want this number of drones. They'll kick the ones they don't want out. So they'll rebalance themselves into the right amount of drones. If you've got that much drones and it's full of bees, you are getting close to a swarming state. Because when I see drone brood appearing, that's when the eggs are being laid. That's my 45-day warning that the colony might swarm. So if you think how long it is, 24 days before the brood emerges, and then another 12 days before they're sexually mature. So you could be 2 weeks away from a swarming. So yes, you should be doing a split. Okay.
Excellent. So going back to the raising of the queens, where would you recommend you get a new queen from?
Someone in your, I don't know which association the person asking the question, someone in your local association, locally. There are a couple of good commercial, Jed Marshall, he's Buckinghamshire, and there is, I forget his name now, up on Bicester Way. He is Ukrainian. He does nukes and he does queens. Yeah, I think he does at least 1,000 queens a year. So he supplies, but they are bred in Oxfordshire and they're locally.
Yeah, so a local queen is the answer. But
yeah, a local queen.
Local. Don't buy anything on the internet. So really early on, I didn't know where to fit this in. Have you got any tips for finding an elusive queen?
All right. Okay, don't bother looking where there's no brood. That's for a start. Always look on the dark side. So I'm here, I'm going that way, doing my inspection. You pull your frame out. As you pull your frame out, you pull it back a bit and you look down the crack, and you pull it out and look straight on that dark side. So the dark side is the bit which is between the two frames, and look on there. Look on the outside and either go clockwise or anti-clockwise, and gradually work your way in on the frame. So you're looking in, and then look on the other side. Put it back. Don't use smoke. If you use smoke as you go down, so use as little smoke as possible. If you use smoke as you go down, all you're going to be doing is moving the queen ahead of you. So say, for instance, you smoke this frame, take it out. Smoke that frame, take it out. The queen's going to run away. And then, if you haven't found her, she's going to be on the far frame. That's the way. And then if you've been in the colony for 15 minutes looking for a queen, close it up. Close the colony up. Let it calm down, then come back in again. Because what always going to happen is you're getting stressed and she's running away and hiding. So you want to do it swiftly, quickly, and no smoke, and just going from one end to the other, and always look on the dark side first. And look around. She's on the outside first, and then go into the middle.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. And then we've got two more questions. Let me find this one. So somebody who's, I think, maybe a fairly new beekeeper, he finds it difficult, or she finds it difficult to see through the mesh in the veil,
Right.
and she wears glasses. Do you know of any head covers that have perspex at the front? I don't think I do.
I don't know. But in this day and age now of all the PPE, maybe something's come up. The problem with the perspex is getting the seal around the outside.
Yeah.
I imagine you could adapt one of these round hoods to sew up with a elastic band around one of the perspex. So, for instance, if you cut that out, you could do it.
I think this person will have to have some experiments, and then they can patent their invention and make their fortune. But we don't know, I don't know of anything like that. And then, can we just clarify what's happening with the recording? Is it? I've been telling people the link will be available on the Bucks website, but have I got that right or wrong, or how is it going to work?
There will be a link on the Bucks website, and it might take you through to MBBKA, or it might take you straight through to Zoom. But there will be a link on the Bucks website which will take you to the right place, and there will be a password required to get it. No password required. There'll just be a link straight through to it. John's going to sort that. So what John's going to do after today, he's going to finish the recording. He's going to top and tail this, enhance the video in the way he enhances videos, and then make it available. And we'll just distribute the details to all the associations.
Excellent. That sounds a great thing. So there's no more questions. So I think we just remains to say thank you, Sean. It's been absolutely fascinating. We had over 70 people online, and the question, I think the fact that people are asking questions about anything and everything is a testament to what a great beekeeper you are. So
thank you very much.
One more message. I think people are just saying thank you and goodbye now. But,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you all very much. I'm going to stop the meeting now. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.